to the 5 questions I want answered at media days. Okay, first question. Is the Big 12 back? So where this comes from is, do players and coaches think Texas has to beat Alabama in September, on September 10th, on Big Noon, on Fox, to be taken seriously by the CFP selection committee in 2022? To which my answer is, it couldn't hurt none. Like, wins are good. I'm the guy that say winning should matter. Clearly, I've been overruled by you and the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, so that's probably going to reflect how I talk about the sport from here on out, because y'all don't give a damn that Oregon beat Ohio State at Columbus. I got dunked on for that mercilessly and still do. So, does Alabama need to catch an L on 40 acres for people to take the Big 12 seriously? Again, it couldn't hurt none. I would also say the winner of the Big 12 championship gets to say either we beat Bama or we beat the team that beat Bama. And that is a strong position to be in when the College Football Playoff Selection Committee is comparing resumes, especially if you're Texas, because Oklahoma doesn't help you anymore. Oklahoma went and ruined that on Oklahoma's terms, all right? So people that already didn't want Oklahoma to get back in the college football playoff because, frankly, we get blown out every time we get there. And OU fans were over it, so much so that when OU didn't make the college football playoff in 2020, everybody's like, cool, we're going to win a bowl game now. And OU is 2-0 in bowl games since not making the college football playoff. It's weird, but that's how it works, all right? You're also talking about, I think, a Texas team that could be good. Now, they're young, and they're going to be young, but I think they're very talented. And I think because they're very talented, they might be able to overcome being young in the beginning, but that Alabama team is going to be seasoned, right? It's not just that Bryce Young is returning. It's also that Will Anderson is returning, that, my goodness, Brian Branch, goodness me. You got dudes all over that defense that could play. Henry To'oTo'o is coming back. You also got a tailback in Jahmyr Gibbs who's transferring in. You got a wide receiver in Jermaine Burton who decided that he doesn't want to play for the defending national champion Georgia. He wants to go play for the team that they beat in Alabama, which is going over not unlike Kevin Durant going from Oklahoma City to Golden State. But how did that end up for Golden State? It's not going to be an easy win. No matter if you're going to have that game sold out, and it is. Like, they've already sold out tickets to that game. It's a huge deal for Texas and for the Big 12. And as far as what does this conference mean, especially as you're going into a transition period, right? So, again, this is complicated from where I'm standing, where I want to ask this question to coaches and players, because you're rooting for a team, or you would be if you say Texas needs to beat Alabama, that is leaving you. They are leaving you for another marriage, okay? They've already filed divorce papers, and you're saying that, yeah, I need them to look good on the way out. That's what I would need. I don't know if there are enough players and coaches in this conference right now that need that, because some of y'all are petty. Some of y'all don't see a business decision as a business decision. Some of y'all only see passion, and I get that. But I would really love to know the answer to that question as you're getting ready for a Cincinnati, a Houston, and a Central Florida to join up. Now, Central Florida also looking like a problem, right? Landed DeMarcus Bowman, a 5-star running back who I think could be the best player in the American this year. He's that good, guys. You're going to hear me talk about DeMarcus Bowman quite a bit, especially if Malzahn ends up turning into a winner down there. Houston was a 12-win team last year, right? I'm getting ahead of myself, but yes, I think that it couldn't hurt none, and I think that Texas beating Alabama only helps the Big 12. Only helps the Big 12. Can't hurt the Big 12. So I would make that distinction. We'll see what the coaches and players have to say when we go to Big 12 Media Days in July. Okay, next one. Addition by addition? Maybe, right? How do the remaining Big 12 teams feel about OU and Texas even a year later, the additions of Houston, Cincinnati, Central Florida, and BYU, right? So let me draw this out once again. OU, Texas are leaving, okay? That's 2 national championships in the past 20 years. One for Oklahoma in 2000, one for Texas 2005. One trip to the national championship since 2009, okay? Now, there's a Texas Christian Baylor part of this that gets into the college football playoff that we don't really need to discuss, but them's the facts, right? OU and Texas, they have been carrying the conference. Oklahoma way more than Texas over the past 20 years. Since the Big 12's inception, quite honestly, since 1995, I mean, it was a little bit of Nebraska in there, but not a lot. And then with Frank Solich being gone, Nebraska decided that they only want to play in 2009, you know, and ain't really been much to write home about since they joined the Big Ten. Now, Houston is a 12-win team last year. I think they won the Birmingham Bowl against Auburn. That's not shabby at all. That's pretty doggone good. Cincinnati, first group of 5 team to make the college football playoff, and quite frankly, made the college football playoff. Central Florida, who I think still has a claim to the 2017 national championship. That'll never go away. That's theirs. And then you have the de facto Pac-12 champion BYU. BYU is not a team that I want to schedule. I don't get anything out of beating BYU. I only catch L's from the L I'm already going to take from BYU, right? Because Brigham Young plays basically a Mountain West schedule, but is an independent. Not for nothing, but outside of Fresno State, Wyoming, San Diego State this year, Utah State this year, Boise State, it's just those names, beating those teams don't move the needle for teams that are voting for the college football playoff, or quite frankly, AP top 25 when you get to the top 10. They just don't care. It doesn't matter that Kalani Sitake has been turning out talent out there and that they're going to just absolutely sun everybody that they play for the most part. It's that they're Brigham Young and they don't play anybody. That changes when they get to the Big 12. I don't think that you're getting better by adding those 4 teams when you lose OU and Texas, because OU and Texas mean so much to the sport, right? Oklahoma in its 47-game win streak, Barry Switzer, Bud Wilkinson, Bob Stoops, right? Jamel Holloway. I keep going. Billy Sims, Adrian Peterson, Sam Bradford. Texas, Vince Young. For some people, the greatest college football player of all time. Ricky Williams, for some people, the greatest running back of all time, but then Earl Campbell would have something to say about that. And then you can add Cedric Benson to the mix if that's what you want to do, okay? I don't think you get better, but I don't think it doesn't. I mean, you could do a lot worse than adding those 4 teams, because those 4 teams have been very good over the past 5 years, and they are making strides to get better. So how do Big 12 teams feel about the addition of those teams? I'm sure we're all going to hear positive things about those teams joining the Big 12, but I'd be here to see what Texas Christian thinks about one Texas team leaving and adding another Texas team. Same thing with Texas Tech, same thing with Baylor. Maybe they're like, fine, whatever. It is what it is. But Cincinnati also is looking at this group of teams and going like, nah, we could run this like we run the American, right? Central Florida is looking at this like, oh yeah, we belong. Some of y'all might think something else about that. Bounce House is going to be a lot of fun for the Big 12, by the way. I'm looking forward to y'all going down there. Like, I went down there as a University of Tulsa cheerleader one time, and not only did I catch 2 middle fingers from a little girl on her daddy's shoulders wearing a UCF cheerleading outfit, 2 double-barreled, but I got to hear that group of folks at Florida's largest university, I think one of the largest universities in the country, stomping their feet on aluminum. As, yeah, Blake Bortles and company went at the University of Tulsa. One of my favorite games to be at, quite honestly. It was really cool. Next question I had is, who's the starter? So who brings a quarterback to Big 12 media days? So as a person that covers the sport, talks to players, talks to coaches, has a lot to say about who's doing what, I always get a little bit annoyed when when coaches decide not to bring the players that they know we want to discuss things with and we want to hear say stuff. One of those people is always going to be the quarterback. Okay? If you got a quarterback derby that's ongoing, cool, we understand. You don't want to have somebody thinking that they have the job by getting to show up and talk nice about the program at media days. I get that. However, whoever your quarterback is, one of those 3 dudes, is going to be the starter. Okay? Bring one. As a matter of fact, be the coach that brings just 3 quarterbacks. Bring all 3. That way, you make sure that all of the coverage is about y'all bringing 3 people that are vying for the same job. Now, I get how that might not work in a locker room, but again, quarterback is a singular position, an important position. Everybody understands that. As Jimmy Johnson once said, I'm going to treat you all fairly. I'm not going to treat you all the same. Quarterbacks don't get treated the same, right? Talk about just what that means in lots of ways, but one of the ways is quarterback get coddled. I mean, that's the nature of the game, right? Like, they don't even get hit in practice. That's why when you see dudes get to go back to conferences and or divisions in the NFL where they get to go hit the dudes they never got to hit in practice, they're always talking about it. Shout out to the Raiders. Khalil Mack, he wants y'all. Good luck with that. All right, so that also means, for me, if you bring a quarterback, you expect to be good. Okay? If you bring a quarterback, you expect to be good. That's what you're signaling. You are telling us, without telling us, hey, we expect to go and hand out more W's than L's. Like, we're going to hand out these L's, take these W's. Okay? That's what we're expecting here. I like to see swag at media days. I like it when dudes get dressed up. They wear the suits. They dress the nines. They have lots to say. They have a lot of stories to tell us, and they feel good about the schedule. Mostly the people in their conference. Show that to me. Okay? Show that to all of us. So if you bring a starter, you expect to be good. I always expect more starters or more quarterbacks to show up than do, and I should probably stop expecting quarterbacks to show up. But that's what that means, right? Who's going to bring a starter? Who's going to bring a quarterback? You bring me a quarterback. I know you got the starter. I also know you expect to be good. Okay. Next, it's not a question, right? So much as it is a statement. What's the vibe, right? The vibe check, you know? Y'all into vibes. I'm not a dude that's into vibes. I'm not a dude that's into saying we vibing anymore because everybody's saying we vibing or I'm about vibes. Like Draymond Green is a vibe guy, okay? I don't count on Draymond Green to lock down anybody. I don't count on Draymond Green to hit shots. I count on Draymond Green to be that dude that we get to play 4-on-5. But Draymond Green is a vibe, okay? He is unassailable as an NBA basketball player, okay? Just like Charles Barkley is a vibe. I want to know what the vibe is going to be around Pac-12 programs discussing the addition of Lincoln Riley to USC, okay? He might not have picked USC because it represents a market inefficiency, but that's how it reads. If Riley gets USC to the college football playoff before the 11 other members of the Pac-12 do, that is how it will be cast. That is how it will be written in stone. That will go down in history as Lincoln Riley, one, choosing to leave Oklahoma. He claims because he does not want, no truck. It's not because I'm afraid of the SEC. It's because I wanted to be at USC. I'm inclined to take that, right? Cool. I understand. You want to be where you want to be. However, how do those folks feel about you deciding to move in? Okay? Do they view you as Chris Rock on the block, or does Chris Rock on the block view you as the dentist? Okay? That's what I want to know. I want to check around. See, not so much what people think about, is Cal going to be good this year, right? Or is Stanford going to come back this year? Or are you afraid of UCLA and what Chip has been building toward? I want to know how you feel about Lincoln Riley seeing that, there's a little bit of crime in your neighborhood and he's decided to move in there because land is cheap. And he feels like he could be the dude to overhaul your neighborhood as you've been living there for however long. I'm excited about that, especially in a conference that has done away with divisions. Hello? It's a free-for-all over there in the Pac-12. I'm really excited to see how this goes. We know all about what Lincoln Riley thinks about USC and what he thinks about his decision to go there. We haven't heard him talk a lot about the other players and coaches he's going to play against in that conference either. Like Alex Grinch will have some stuff to say, but Alex Grinch was playing, defensive coordinator at Washington State. That was his role. Washington State is not USC, as every USC fan will tell you. Now, I also think that it's kind of funny that USC fans immediately expect to be good. Some of them are less delusional. They understand that last year's team was 4-8. They might be a bowl eligible team this year, and then next year they expect to be good. But I'm looking at that roster, and I'm going, no. Demand excellence from this man who went and got Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison, right? Mario Williams, still has Corey Foreman. Like, you got dudes over there. Now, I have my reservations about the offensive line. Not that it can't be good, but because it's slim. Like, if you lose a body, they ain't but so many bodies. Okay? I don't care how good an offensive line coach you are. You can't coach nobody that can't play. It's a thing. So I'm going to be checking on the vibe when we get to Pac-12 Media Days to just see how things are smoothing out or not smoothing out, particularly in Utah, where they defended Pac-12 champs, where they gave Ohio State everything they wanted, and where they're going, oh, you moved into our block on our side of the street, what used to be the Pac-12 South Division, and you decided that this was the place where you thought you could build the mecca of college football in our face? Cool. We'll see you in Salt Lake City. We will see y'all a little bit later on. I don't know if you remember this, but I beat Nick Saban in 2008 as the head coach of Utah, and I went undefeated, and they still didn't want to give me no national championship. That would be my feeling if I'm Kyle Whittingham. Maybe I don't know that he rolls like that, but I wouldn't begrudge him if he rolled like that. Okay. Last question I have on the Media Days questions front. What's the biggest off-the-field issue that players and coaches want to discuss? Is it an administrative issue along the lines of scholarship limits, the transfer portal, removing divisions in the conference, or is it still name, image, and likeness? The reason I put scholarship limits in here is because something has kind of dawned on me. If maybe it's just kind of been working its way toward the front of my mind. Basically, since everybody got the COVID year mulligan in 2020, I got to take a look at just how many dudes play college football. At the Division I level, FBS level, it's 11,000 players in a given year. That number ballooned to 12,000 plus in 2021. I'm also covering the USFL, as many of you know. And one of the things that I have to say didn't surprise me, but one I have to lay out for most people that are not familiar with the USFL, is that every one of these dudes can play. And I don't mean that's my eyes. I mean, they got CVs that are ridiculous. Like, the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Stars was the backup quarterback to start the season. He also won the Jerry Rice Award for the best freshman in FCS at Northern Arizona. Okay. Best linebacker for the Philadelphia Stars is a man named Jordan Moore. Jordan Moore not only leads that team in tackles, but Jordan Moore won the Big 12 championship indoor and outdoor in the hurdles, the 60 and the 110, then transferred to LSU where he thought was going to be able to play football, wasn't able to play football. LSU track coach says, do you want to run track? He says, sure. Wins the SEC indoor and outdoor hurdles championships. He's an All-American. He won 4 conference titles in 2 different conferences, and he wanted to play football at UTSA. I'm telling you, you throw a rock, you will hit a great football player. In some of these states, that's all we do. California, Georgia, Texas, Florida, Ohio. All we do is make great football players. Why are we still limiting the number of scholarships to 85? Well, there's Title IX reasons for that, right? I also think that it's wild that more people don't understand that Title IX was not made law to make sports more equal. It was to make life more equal. Like life itself, working job to job. The gender gap, wage gap is huge. It's massive. We're just now talking about a dominant U.S. women's national team. More dominant than most other teams, period. Finally getting the pay that the men's are getting. Let me back it up because I'm getting loud for no reason. They're finally getting paid the same amount as a men's team that did not make the World Cup. You have a team that beat the hell out of everybody they played and a team that can't even make a tournament of 32. Okay. I think that if you increase the number of scholarships, football, you got to increase the number of scholarships everywhere. Okay? And then we got revenue generating and those sorts of things. But I'm also looking at this going, yeah, we find the money for the things we want. So I like having more and better football, and that means more bodies. I also like watching and having more athletes everywhere. And as long as y'all want to cling to this model of how come kids are getting paid, cool. Put your money where your mouth is and put that money into scholarships. The wrestling scholarships at Oklahoma State are endowed. Think about that for a second. What happens when we get to a place where the scholarships for football are endowed? Because there's enough money to go around. Cool, spread that out. I would like to see the women's soccer team, the softball team, tennis teams, gymnastics get a little bit better and have more places for people to do what y'all all say y'all want people to do. Get an education. Okay? I also think that it's kind of overblown what the transfer portal is, but they're already trying to push through a transfer portal like deadline and or dead period. Some of that makes sense to me. I understand because coaches want to know what they have and what they don't have. I'd also say that there's some antitrust stuff there that I'm not a lawyer and I don't want to get too deep into, but if a coach can move anytime they want to move, why shouldn't a player be able to move anytime they want to move? Well, RJ, a coach is not going to quit his job or take another job in August. No, because there are no openings in August. There are always openings for players. We always have openings for labor. We do not always have openings for management. That's why management gets paid. Okay? But I'm also going to make this point. I watched Lance Leipold take a job in May, coaching just fine. Gave Oklahoma the business and beat the brakes off of Texas in Austin. I just don't see why that's a problem. I'm also here for the movement. It makes my job much more fun because I like it when players move around. I like following stories like Jackson Dart, knowing he's going to go to Ole Miss and or waiting on Caleb Williams to do what he's going to do, which knowing he's going to USC, and waiting on Jordan Addison, who went into the portal but on USC and then decided that, hey, I should probably play this out so it doesn't look like I'm just, being recruited into the portal and out to USC. And I like knowing that Pat Narduzzi called up Lincoln Riley to give him his feelings on the matter. That's fun. I also like that we're not restricting the access that these players have to go and try to have a better time playing college football. When I talk to recruits, and this is how I get back to like the Texas part where I knew that there were a bunch of players that were waiting on Arch to do what he's doing because they're going to follow him. They'll ask me straight up, do I have an opportunity to play X position? Or do I have an opportunity to play for a championship? Or do I have an opportunity to make a good deal of money? And I'll answer those questions. But the thing I always want to stress to them is go where you're going to have a good time. Okay? If that place is Ohio and not Ohio State, that's okay. Be Tyler Tettleton, who's a folk hero for the Bobcats. Outstanding player coming out of Norman, Oklahoma. Okay? Not every blue blood is fit for you. Where you might be one of the guys, you can go somewhere else and be their guy. Go to the place where you can be their guy, right? All right. Last thing I thought was interesting in there was the removing of divisions and conferences. The ACC announced on Tuesday, when we're recording this episode, that they're going to get rid of divisions in 2023. They didn't really say it that way. They just said that we're going to make sure that everybody plays everybody over the course of 3 years. But what they said was, yeah, the Atlantic and the Coastal, they're not working for us either. We're going to do what the Pac-12 does. Big 12's been doing this for years and got penalized for it, right? Or so they thought. So they went to round robin and was like, fine, let's do it this way. I also thought it was interesting that we're talking about ACC and the Pac-12 removing divisions. We expect the SEC will remove divisions, but they're still working on how they want to integrate Oklahoma and Texas into future doings. But we're not talking about the Big Ten removing divisions. And I think that conference has the most to gain by eliminating divisions right now. I'm not particularly enthusiastic about seeing another Wisconsin-Ohio State game. I am enthusiastic about seeing Ohio State-Michigan round 2. That would be a lot of fun. I am enthusiastic about Ohio State versus Penn State for the championship. Or even Iowa versus Nebraska, which is a made-up rivalry, but a rivalry nonetheless. I would like to see it. I'm here for Michigan versus Michigan State. Let's redo the land grant. Like, there are ways to do this. Or not the land grant. That is Michigan State and Penn State. My fault. But that interstate rivalry. There are ways to do this that I think benefit them. I'm leaning towards they're going to do this at some point. It's about when and how, right? Kevin Warren's a smarter man than I am. This is his job to try to sort out with his partners, which are the university presidents and chancellors. But I'm looking forward to them saying, hey, we're going to do what most everybody else is going to do, and we're just going to get the divisions out of the way so that, one, we give people the games they want to see for conference championships, and conference championship games ought to matter. And two, we have a better chance of putting not one, but 2 teams in the college football playoff at a time when the SEC is getting larger as it has dominated the sport since 2006. Feels like a win, especially for a conference that I think is the second best conference in all of college football to the SEC itself, and might have a run for the best conference in sports. Now, the SEC still has something to do with that, especially coming off this win in the Men's College World Series with Ole Miss. But, you're adding Oklahoma and Texas, and Oklahoma brings its softball and its gymnastic tradition with it in addition to football. and what baseball has been able to do. So, again, help yourself, Big Ten. Help yourself. Thanks for watching this video, and remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 Ranked Show YouTube channel.